Hi, I'm Malachy from Long Country Life. Today I'm going to show you how to plant shallots. This variety is called Golden Gourmet, and I'm going to intercrop them, in other words have two crops out of the one area with potatoes. So I have a variety here called Royal, which is a very large potato. So the intercropping means that you can get two crops out of the one space. So the shallot here will actually grow and form the shallots, and I'll have used them before the potatoes will have matured. So that means that the potatoes can then finally take over all the space. So I'll just show you how to pop these in the ground. I prepared the bed here, and I'll put on some fertiliser at the finish as well. So now the Golden Gourmet are a shallot, so they actually are an onion bulb essentially that are comprised of little baby onions within it. And what happens is when these grow, the leaves will come out and they'll split into individual plants. So usually per bulb you get about 5 or 6 shallots out of it actually. So usually, you know, one pack of the bulbs here is enough for a family for about 3 or 4 month period. And they're dead easy to grow. All you simply do is you get the bulbs. Now I've prepared the soil, it's nice and soft here, so I just gently press them in, and I leave the top of the bulb, the pointy tip here, I leave that pop out of the ground, so they're kind of 3/4 buried as such, and the little necks just peeping out like that. So I'm putting them in around about 4 inches apart. That's enough for them anyway to grow, mature, and be happy with that kind of space. And then later on then we'll plant potatoes into the same area here. So the shallots are just planted actually, but I just wanted to show you one that I had planted actually earlier. So this shallot has been in the ground for about 6 weeks now at this stage, planted there in early March. And you can see now that the bulb has split from the original bulb and has formed the individuals like this here. So they're actually ready for the kitchen now, so they are. So all you do really is you just prepare them slightly by pulling off the older leaf. You can trim off the roots and they're essentially ready to go into the salad, so just a quick wash and away they go. So now I'm ready to plant the potatoes. Just thought I'd talk about the seed potatoes. So generally you buy these in the garden centres and they come in a net bag, and this variety is called Royal, which is an extra large one. It's perfect for chips and actually for mashing as well. But simply you plant the potato in an upright position, so they usually have these little sprouts. So normally when you buy these in February, you can keep them in the frost-free shed, and these potatoes will form these little baby sprouts here. And this is the perfect stage to plant them at, rather than when they get too long. And it just makes it much more easy to handle them at this stage. And the roots will grow from those stems, and then the baby potatoes will grow from those. So that's why potatoes really need to be kind of planted fairly deep, so around 6 to 8 inches deep. And traditionally people will form ridges where they bring the clay up on like a Toblerone kind of a shape and plant into that. But I grow them on the flat here because I will use farmyard manure as a mulch over the top. So I will put a layer of farmyard manure over the soil here, and that will give them food, but also gives them an area to grow the new potatoes into. So I don't use the ridges for that reason. And both methods work equally well. It's just the way I choose to do it here because I'm intercropping. I have 2 crops here with onions and the potatoes in the one area, so that helps me to do that. So I'll plant them now around about 2 foot apart for these ones. And if you had an early potato like a British Queen variety, you might put them in a little bit closer than that because you dig them at a much earlier stage. So this potato now would be ready to harvest somewhere around late August and into September. And they will need several things to keep an eye out for in the growing season. So I will feed them with a potato fertiliser. This is a Vitax feed. I will feed them about every 2 to 3 weeks, and I probably will use a blight control as well. So I will come back to that in a second, but initially anyway we'll just plant these at about 2 foot apart. Planted the potatoes, and I've just marked each area where the potatoes are actually planted just for myself with a little bamboo there, just so that when I'm hoeing weeds later on I'll kind of know roughly where they're popping up, and so I won't damage accidentally with the hoe, you see. But care for potatoes then later on anyway. As I say, we'll be using some fertiliser here now, and roughly every 2 weeks or so for the growing season. They will need adequate watering, so if you get a dry spell in the summer you will need to water them perhaps once a week or so, depending on the temperatures. They need that moisture to get the potatoes to form and swell up nice and large. And also a thing to consider then is blight control. So sometimes you can get away with it in an early variety like British Queen. You might have actually dug and used the potatoes before they're actually ready. But because this is a main crop or a late variety that'll be ready in late August, September, more than likely they will get potato blight this summer. So you have one or two options. You can use a organic, this is classed as organic copper. Basically bluestone as it would have been known years ago, and this is often used for potatoes. You water it down and you spray it on the foliage roughly every couple of days, about every 4 or 5 days. Because it's copper solution, you see it's antifungal, and that will actually prevent the potato blight from forming. The other solution is this one here, which is a Bayer product, and it's a more of a systemic fungicide. So we can spray that on, and it gives you a little bit longer in between sprays, so roughly every 2 weeks or so for this. And potato blight usually starts around the end of May, right through the summer up until the end of September before you're harvesting. So you will need to keep an eye on it anyway. And how it shows up, it's a little bit like black spot on roses. You will get black freckles on the leaves initially, quite low down. But they will quickly progress and will quickly turn a lovely healthy plant into a black stem within literally 10 days or so. So you need to work fast, you know. And if you do those few things, you will certainly have a very good crop at the end of the year. So thanks very much for watching.